Hello, and welcome to the Snoozy Scientist, where we explore the biggest mysteries of science, one sleepy yawn at a time. Tonight, we're not chasing stars or galaxies, we're tuning into something much closer, the ground beneath us, because Earth has been sending us signals for years, not just earthquakes or storms, but stranger things, shifts in magnetic fields, deep vibrations that travel through bedrock, hums that come and go without warning, energy pulses that we have been ignoring. And here's the strange part: scientists know they've recorded these signals, mapped them, named them, but they're not talking about them, at least not publicly. Why? What are these hidden frequencies? What do they mean? And the question no one wants to ask: are we safe? Some signals seem like warnings, others feel like patterns we're only just beginning to notice. While most feel like the planet is trying to tell us something over and over again, while we stay too busy to listen. So tonight, we'll slow down and explore the quiet signals Earth has been sending, the ones most people never hear, and the ones science rarely explains. Before we begin, I'd love to know, where are you listening from tonight? Drop your city in the comments, or just tell me how your day is winding down. Whether you're lying in bed, taking a deep breath after a long day, or just hoping your thoughts finally stop racing, I'm honored to be part of your evening. And if this slow journey helps you rest, or simply gives your imagination a softer place to land, please tap like and subscribe. It helps grow this channel and helps others like you find us too. Now take a deep breath, let your mind soften, and let's listen to what the earth has been trying to say. Even when the world feels still, it's not. Even in the middle of the night, when the wind is calm, the animals are sleeping, and there's not a single car on the road, the earth is never fully silent. Underneath everything, something is always moving. It might not be loud, it might not be obvious, but if you could press your ear to the ground and really listen, you'd hear it. The earth hums. That's not a metaphor. It's a real thing, something scientists have measured and mapped. It's called the Earth's hum, or sometimes the background free oscillation of the Earth. And it's happening all the time, everywhere, all around us. This hum isn't caused by earthquakes or human activity. It's something deeper, something more constant. It's as if the Earth is vibrating very gently on its own, like a sleeping giant, breathing slowly in its sleep. The first hints of this hum were noticed by seismologists, scientists who study vibrations in the ground. They found that even when there were no earthquakes, no volcanic eruptions, no nearby traffic, their instruments still picked up tiny movements, soft pulses, gentle waves, almost like music playing far off in the distance. At first, no one was quite sure what to make of it, but over time, more and more studies confirmed it. The Earth is always making sound. We just can't hear it with our ears. These vibrations are extremely low in frequency, far below the range of human hearing. Most of us can hear sounds between about 20 and 20,000 hertz, but the Earth's hum, it's down around 3 to 7 millihertz. That's so low, it would take several minutes for a single wave to pass by. Imagine that, a sound so deep and slow that you'd never know it was there unless you were using specialized equipment to feel it. And yet, this hum is everywhere. It's been detected under the Pacific Ocean, in the Sahara Desert, beneath cities, even deep underground. So where does it come from? Some scientists believe it's caused by waves in the ocean, the constant push and pull of water against the sea floor. Others think it might be related to pressure changes in the atmosphere, or the way wind flows over mountain ranges. There's even speculation that the hum could be tied to shifts deep within the planet's crust, quiet reminders that the Earth is never truly at rest. But here's the strange thing: even though we can measure it, we still don't fully understand it. It's a signal we can't turn off, one we didn't expect, and yet it's always been there, quietly vibrating beneath our feet. There's something deeply comforting about that, isn't there? That even in silence, even when we think the world is still, the planet is quietly humming along, not in chaos, not in pain, just existing, softly, steadily, patiently. It makes you wonder how many other signals we miss, how many patterns and pulses are happening all the time, just beyond what we can sense. Maybe Earth has always had a rhythm, a secret soundtrack of motion and energy and life. And maybe, just maybe, the hum is a reminder that even in quiet there's movement, even in stillness there's life. So the next time everything feels silent, remember the ground beneath you is singing, very softly, very slowly, just enough for those who are willing to listen. In some corners of the world, people hear a strange sound. It's not a car engine. It's not a plane overhead. It's not the wind. It's something deeper, lower, constant. They call it the hum. It's a low, rumbling sound, like a truck idling just down the street. Except there's no truck, no machine, no noise anyone else can find. And yet the people who hear it know it's real, because once it starts, it doesn't stop. It hums through walls, through pillows, even through silence. It can follow people into the countryside and into their sleep. The hum has been reported all over the world, in Taos, New Mexico, in Bristol, England, in parts of Canada, Australia, and even Japan. Each time, the description is the same, a soft, low frequency droning sound that just won't go away. But here's where it gets strange. Not everyone hears it. In fact, in most places, only about 2 to 4% of people seem to be able to detect it. Neighbors in the same house might disagree. One hears it, the other hears nothing. It doesn't show up in standard microphones or audio recordings, and it doesn't seem to come from a specific direction. It's just there. Some people find it mildly annoying. Others say it keeps them awake at night. A few describe it as maddening, like being trapped inside a sound no one else believes exists. Scientists have studied it. They've brought in sound equipment, vibration sensors, and seismic monitors. They've recorded data in places where the hum is strongest. And yes, some of those instruments do pick up faint, low frequency sounds, but the signals are weak and inconsistent, and no one can agree on what's causing them. Some theories suggest it's caused by distant factories or heavy machinery. Others point to electrical grids or underground pipes. Some believe it's tied to military communications or submarine transmissions. A few even think it might be a natural phenomenon, part of the Earth's own low frequency activity. And then there are the more unusual ideas. Some believe the hum is related to secret technology. Others think it's caused by pressure changes in the inner ear. A few suggest that certain people might just be more sensitive, able to detect vibrations others can't. But here's the thing, after decades of research, there's still no official answer. No single explanation fits all the cases. The hum appears in places with no nearby industry. It's been heard in the mountains, near the ocean, in busy cities, and in wide open countryside. Sometimes it vanishes without warning, only to return weeks or months later. And yet, for those who hear it, it's very real. Imagine lying in bed, late at night, and feeling a low vibration in your chest, a steady pulsing sound in your ears. You check outside, everything's still, but the sound is still there. For some people, that's just another night. For others, it's a mystery they've lived with for years, and maybe the most unsettling part is this. It seems like something Earth is doing, but we're not sure why. Is it a signal? A symptom? or just a strange quirk of a living planet. The hum invites us to wonder what else is happening beneath our feet that we don't understand. What other signals are we brushing aside because they're hard to measure or even harder to explain? The truth is, not every sound has a source we can name. Not every vibration fits neatly into our machines or our models. Some mysteries linger quietly, humming in the background, waiting for someone curious enough to stop and listen. Maybe the hum is one of them, and maybe that's exactly what makes it worth exploring. Every living thing has a rhythm. Your heart beats, your lungs rise and fall. Even your brain has waves, gentle pulses of energy moving through your thoughts. But did you know the earth does too? Deep above the ground, but below outer space, there's a space in the sky called the ionosphere. It's a thin layer of charged particles about 30 to 600 miles above the surface. And between the surface of the Earth and this glowing shell, something incredible happens. A frequency begins to build, not just one, but several. Soft, low, invisible waves that wrap around the planet like a heartbeat. These are called the Schumann resonances. And they're named after a German physicist, Winfried Otto Schumann, who predicted them in the 1950s. He discovered that the space between the Earth and the ionosphere acts like a giant electromagnetic drum. When lightning strikes anywhere in the world, and it does, thousands of times every second, it sends a pulse into this space. That energy bounces between the earth and sky, again and again, creating standing waves. And those waves settle into very specific, very low frequencies. The base frequency, the Earth's fundamental tone, is around 7.83 hertz. That number might not mean much at first. In, but here's where it gets strange. Because 7.83 hertz is also right in the range of human brainwaves. Gamsuvmirk, specifically, the ones linked to relaxation, meditation, and light sleep, known as alpha and theta waves. So let's pause here. The Earth has a natural frequency that pulses in the same range as the quietest part of your brain, the part that dreams, and the part that calms, the part that gently drifts between thoughts. Coincidence? Maybe, but it sparked curiosity among scientists, doctors, and even spiritual thinkers. Some researchers believe that the Schumann resonance may play a role in our well being, helping us stay connected to the planet's rhythm without even knowing it. They suggest that being in nature, away from city noise, artificial light, and constant electronics, might allow our brains to sync more closely with this natural pulse. It's why a walk in the forest, a day at the beach, or even just lying under the stars can feel different, grounding, centering, like something inside you just clicked back into place. And on the flip side, some studies suggest that being constantly surrounded by electronic signals, Wi Fi, phone towers, artificial lighting, might disrupt that connection. That's still being debated, but the idea is simple. But the idea is simple. Comthai satamati. The idea is for member to specialist is by stians one specialist sore. If the planet has a rhythm and we have one too, what happens when they fall out of sync? We don't fully understand the answer, but the question itself is beautiful. And here's another layer. During strong solar storms, when the sun sends charged particles toward Earth, the ionosphere changes. The Schumann frequencies can shift slightly. They rise and fall like notes in a song. And some sensitive people claim to feel that shift in their sleep patterns, their emotions, or their sense of balance. Again, the science is still exploring this, but the connection between earth and body, between sky and mind, is hard to ignore. It makes you wonder, to makes you, are we not just living on the earth, but with it? Are we part of a larger, quieter rhythm, one we've forgotten how to feel? The, the Schumann resonances are real. They're measurable. They're constant. They're happening right now, all around you. You can't hear them. You can't touch them, but your body might be listening anyway. So tonight, as you lie still and quiet, know that the earth is pulsing too. A soft electromagnetic heartbeat echoing beneath your thoughts. Slow, steady, ancient. And maybe, just maybe, you've been in sync with it all along. And most of the time, when we think about the earth moving, we imagine something big, a jolt, a shake, cracks in the pavement, an earthquake, mills. But not all of the earth's movements are violent. Some are so soft, so subtle, they don't even make a sound. And yet, they're happening all the time. These are called seismic whispers, gentle vibrations that travel through the rock beneath our feet. Pure, they don't cause damage. They don't rattle buildings or set off alarms. But they're there, moving through stone like quiet messages. Think of them as the earth's softest voice. Movements that never rise to the level of a quake, but might still be trying to say something. Seismologists, scientists who study the motion of the earth, have discovered that the ground is constantly alive with these tiny tremors, not just during quakes, not just during eruptions, but even on the calmest, stillest days. They're called microtremors or low frequency seismic waves, and they ripple quietly through bedrock, often unnoticed, often unstudied. Some are caused by natural things like shifting underground water, small landslides, or even the daily movement of tides. Others may come from deep within the earth itself, pressure slowly building, rocks slowly grinding, faults quietly slipping just a little. It's like the planet is shifting in its sleep, not waking up, just adjusting its weight. And here's the curious part. And here's the These tiny signals often come before a larger earthquake. Not always, not everywhere, but in certain places scientists have noticed patterns, subtle movements days, sometimes even weeks before the ground shakes in earnest. They're like early murmurs before a scream, like someone taking a deep breath before shouting. But most of the time, we don't notice them. Our instruments aren't always sensitive enough, or we dismiss the data because the tremors don't do anything right away. And so, the warning passes. The message is missed. Imagine if we could tune into those whispers and were some koljit pandaratas humden, harsambold with koj. If we could understand the language of the rocks, we might be able to predict when pressure is building, and we might be able to say, it's coming soon, and prepare. Some researchers are working on it. They're placing more sensors deep underground, studying low frequency patterns, looking for changes in vibration speed, direction, and shape. It's not easy because stone is complicated, because it doesn't always act the same way twice. But the idea is simple. Don't wait for the shout, listen for the whisper. It's like the earth is tapping on our shoulder, gently, repeatedly, as if to say, pay attention, something's moving down here. There's also evidence that animals can detect these tremors before we do. They react strangely, pacing, hiding, leaving their nests just hours before a quake. Are they picking up on these soft signals? Are their bodies tuned to vibrations we can't feel? We don't know for sure, but it's one more clue that the Earth gives us early warnings. We've just forgotten how to hear them. So next time the world feels still, remember that stillness isn't silence. Beneath your feet, vibrations are moving through the stone, not fast, not loud, not but steady. The earth is talking, not in roars or rumbles, but in quiet shifts and sighs. And if we learn to listen to these signals, we might just hear what's coming before it arrives. And because sometimes the most important messages don't echo loudly. They travel in silence, carried gently through stone, waiting to be heard. Sometimes before the ground shakes, the sky glows. It doesn't happen often, in warni or night, and forminity follows or hap quol. And when it does, it's easy to miss. To, but over the years, people in different parts of the world have reported seeing strange lights in the sky, just moments, hours, or even days before an earthquake. They're called earthquake lights, not lightning, not auroras, and something else. They might look like soft flashes of white or blue light. They might stretch like a faint glow across the horizon, flicker like silent lightning, or appear as mysterious orbs hovering near the ground. Some are quick, lasting only seconds. Others linger in the sky, gently shifting like a silent warning. People have seen them in China, Italy, Japan, Peru, and even the United States. They've been caught on camera, described in old journals, reported again and again across centuries. And yet, scientists still aren't quite sure what they are. At first, these reports were dismissed, and how too rare to be real, some said, just imagination, or car headlights, or electrical wires snapping. But as more people came forward with similar stories, and as video footage began to appear, the mystery became harder to ignore. So, what could cause these lights? There are a few theories. It- One idea is that when rocks deep underground are put under extreme pressure, the kind that builds before a major earthquake, they release electrical energy. This energy might travel up through the ground, into the atmosphere, and trigger flashes of light. Another theory suggests that charged particles from stressed rocks interact with the air above, creating a glow, similar to how lightning works, but slower and more scattered. Some scientists believe it's a mix of gases, pressure, and electric fields, all working together in just the right conditions. But here's the challenge. Not the challenge, but if you earthquake lights don't happen before every quake. And when they do, they're often short lived and hard to study. That makes them unpredictable and hard to prove. Still, the patterns are there. In 2007, during an earthquake in Peru, people saw bright flashes of light across the night sky long before the shaking began. In 2016, during a quake in New Zealand, glowing clouds were captured on camera. In 1976, during the devastating Tangshan earthquake in China, survivors described strange, colorful lights above the city just before the disaster. Even more recently, in places like Turkey and Mexico, sky flashes have been recorded just before or during seismic events. These are not isolated stories, but because they're rare and because they don't follow a clear pattern, earthquake lights still aren't officially accepted by all scientists. Some researchers are studying them, others remain skeptical. But the mystery remains. Are these lights a warning? A side effect of shifting energy underground? A message from the earth, lighting up the sky before the surface breaks? No one knows for sure. No, but imagine this. You're standing outside just after sunset. Fahrenheit. The air is still. The sky is dark. and suddenly a soft blue light spreads across the clouds. It flickers, it pulses, then it fades. Hours later, the ground shakes. What did you see? A coincidence? A clue? Or a glimpse into a part of nature we still don't fully understand? Earthquake lights remind us that the earth is full of secrets, not just below our feet, but above our heads. They're a gentle nudge that science is still learning, still exploring, still wondering. So the next time you see a flicker in the sky, one that feels a little too quiet, a little too strange, don't rush to explain it away. Curious, maybe the earth is sending out a signal, not in words, pure fantasy, not in thunder, but in light, brief, beautiful, and still unsolved. In the quiet moments before a natural disaster, something strange often happens. Long before humans feel anything, the animals begin to act differently. Dogs start barking without reason. Birds take flight all at once, and cats run and hide. Horses grow restless. Even insects, like ants and bees, change their behavior, sometimes leaving their colonies entirely. It's been reported again and again, and not just recently. Stories of animals acting strangely before earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions date back hundreds, even thousands of years. In ancient Greece, people noticed rats, snakes, and weasels fleeing cities just days before deadly earthquakes. In 1975, Chinese officials evacuated the city of Haicheng after observing widespread unusual animal behavior, and just hours later, a major earthquake struck. In 2004, during the devastating Indian Ocean tsunami, tourists and locals in Sri Lanka noticed elephants running uphill, flamingos abandoning nesting grounds, and dogs refusing to go to the beach. Many animals survived, even when humans didn't know danger was coming. And when so what's happening here? Is it instinct? Or are animals sensing something we can't? Scientists have long been fascinated by this question. Some believe that animals may be tuned in to changes in the environment that are too subtle for humans to notice. They might feel tiny ground vibrations. They might detect shifts in magnetic fields. They might even sense changes in the air, like increased static electricity or the scent of gas released from underground cracks. Unlike humans, animals often live closer to the earth. They don't wear shoes or sleep in buildings. They, they don't drown out their senses with screens or noise. They rely on instincts for survival, for navigation, for protection. That makes them more sensitive, more alert, and maybe more aware of what the earth is doing. One theory suggests that before an earthquake, rocks deep underground become stressed and release charged particles. These particles might affect the magnetic field in the area or ionize the air, creating sensations animals can feel on their skin or in their whiskers. Another theory says that animals can hear low frequency sounds that we can't. These sounds, sometimes called infrasound, can travel long distances and might come from shifting plates or deep underground cracks. To us, it's silence. To them, it might be a roar. Some scientists have tried to study this in controlled ways, placing animals near sensors, tracking behavior before seismic events, and comparing data. But results are mixed. Animals don't always react before a quake, and sometimes they act strangely when nothing happens at all. That's part of the mystery. Animal reactions are hard to measure, they're unpredictable, and they don't follow neat scientific rules. But that doesn't mean they're not real. But if anything, it shows us that nature has many ways of knowing, and not all of them can be seen on a graph or read from a monitor. There's something humbling about that. That in a world filled with sensors, satellites, and smart technology, a dog's bark, a cat's disappearance, or a bird's sudden flight might still hold more ancient wisdom than we realize. It makes you wonder, what signals are we missing? What instincts have we forgotten? We've built walls, floors, and machines that keep us safe, but they also separate us from the ground, from the vibrations, from the subtle shifts that animals still seem to feel. So next time your dog won't settle, or the birds outside your window go silent, then scatter all at once, or your cat hides without cause, maybe don't brush it off so quickly. Let- Maybe they're not scared. Maybe they're listening. Maybe they're tuned into the planet in a way we've lost. And maybe, just maybe, just maybe, they're trying to tell us something. Not in words, not in warnings, but in movement, in silence, in the quiet language of instincts. It's one more reminder that the earth speaks in many voices, and some of the oldest, wisest ears still belong to the creatures we walk beside every day. Most earthquakes arrive like a sudden shock, a jolt, a shudder. One moment, everything is calm, and the next, the world moves beneath your feet. But not all earthquakes are like that. Some don't shake buildings, some don't make a sound, some don't even reach the surface. And yet, they're still happening, deep below us. These are called silent earthquakes, or more formally, slow slip events. And unlike regular quakes that strike in seconds, these ones move slowly, almost peacefully, over days, weeks, or even months. They are quiet, they are deep, and they may hold secrets about how the earth works and what it might do next. To understand silent quakes, we first need to look at how earthquakes usually happen. Beneath the Earth's surface, the planet's crust is made up of giant pieces called tectonic plates. These plates are always moving, very slowly, sliding past or pushing into each other. Sometimes the edges of these plates get stuck. Pressure builds, tension grows, and when that pressure becomes too much to hold, it snaps. That sudden release of energy is what we feel as an earthquake, but sometimes the plates don't snap. Instead, they slide past each other quietly, softly, so slowly that the energy is released without the usual shaking. It's like the difference between dropping a book and gently setting it down. These silent earthquakes often happen deep beneath the surface, much deeper than regular quakes. They can last for days or weeks. Some have even continued for months without anyone on the surface feeling a thing. It wasn't until around the early 2000s that scientists really began to study them. Using sensitive instruments called GPS stations and strain meters, researchers noticed that in some parts of the world, especially along fault lines, the ground was shifting in strange ways. Not shaking, but creeping, moving just a few millimeters at a time, almost like a whisper of motion beneath the crust. These areas include places like Japan, New Zealand, Alaska, and the Pacific Northwest of the United States and Canada. All of them lie on or near active fault lines, places where tectonic plates meet and interact. And here's where it gets even more interesting. In some cases, silent quakes seem to occur on a cycle, returning every 14 months or every few years like clockwork. That's rare for earthquakes, which are usually unpredictable. It's as if the earth is trying to let off pressure in a gentle rhythm, releasing energy without chaos. But not always. Some scientists now believe that these slow slip events could actually trigger larger earthquakes. In certain situations, the quiet movement deep underground may put stress on other parts of a fault, places that are already under pressure, and that could lead to a bigger, more dangerous quake. So even though these tremors are silent, they're not necessarily harmless. They may be the early warning signs of something bigger, or they may be part of a larger pattern we don't fully understand yet. That's why researchers are watching them closely, studying the timing, the movement, the depth, trying to unlock what they call the tectonic code, the deep language of pressure, motion, and release beneath the Earth's surface. But for now, many questions remain. Well, why do silent earthquakes happen in some places but not others? Why do some slip events stay quiet, while others lead to strong surface shaking? And could we one day use these silent signals to predict bigger quakes before they happen? We don't know yet, but every time we measure one, every time the ground moves a little without anyone noticing, we learn a little more. It's a reminder that not all danger comes with noise, and not all warnings shout. Sometimes the earth speaks in long, slow movements, like a breath drawn in over days, will like tension released in silence. That, and while we may not feel these deepest tremors, they're always there, moving beneath mountains, sliding under oceans, gently rearranging the crust we walk on. So tonight, as you drift off to sleep, know that far below, the earth is shifting, not in chaos, but in quiet. Not with fear, but with the steady rhythm of a living world. And maybe, just maybe, those silent movements carry the wisdom of balance, teaching us that not all pressure needs to explode. Some of it can be released softly. Volcanoes don't always erupt without warning. Sometimes, long before the first explosion, before the lava flows, before ash fills the sky, a volcano whispers, not in words, not in roars, on- but in sound waves too low for us to hear. These are called infrasound waves, deep, low frequency vibrations that travel through the air, through the ground, and even through the bodies of animals. They move slowly, steadily, and often invisibly, like a heartbeat buried beneath the noise of the world. Infrasound is any sound wave with a frequency below 20 hertz, lower than what the human ear can detect. But just because we can't hear it doesn't mean it's not there. Volcanoes produce infrasound as they prepare to erupt. These waves can start hours, days, or even weeks before any visible activity. And to those who know how to listen, they carry valuable clues. The Earth is full of volcanoes, more than 1,500 active ones, scattered across continents and seafloors. Some sleep for centuries, others grumble and groan regularly, and a few are constantly changing, like restless giants shifting in their sleep. Before a volcano erupts, the magma inside begins to move. It pushes through cracks in the rock. As it bubbles and boils, it builds pressure, slowly forcing its way upward. All of this motion creates vibrations, not just the kind that shake the ground, but also the kind that ripple through the air as sound waves. Infrasound waves. They're created by gas bursts, rock fractures, and small eruptions inside the volcano's vent. To us, everything might still look calm, but in the invisible world of sound, the volcano is already speaking, Scientists have learned to record and study these infrasound signals using special instruments called infrasound microphones or microbarometers. These devices can pick up the faintest pressure changes in the air, changes that our ears would never notice. And what they've found is fascinating. Different volcanoes have different infrasound voices, and some hum at low, steady tones. Others pulse, flutter, or thump like distant drums. As magma moves, the pitch and pattern of the sound changes, like a warning growing louder, even if no one can hear it. In places like Mount Etna in Italy, Sakurajima in Japan, and Kilauea in Hawaii, scientists now monitor infrasound as part of their eruption warning systems. When the sounds begin to shift, it can be a sign that an eruption is near. Sometimes, these warnings come hours before any surface activity. Other times, they arrive just minutes before an explosion. But either way, they offer something precious: time. Time to prepare, time to warn, time to move. Infrasound is especially useful because it can travel long distances, much farther than regular sound. It's not blocked by hills, buildings, or even forests. That means a single microphone, placed miles away from a volcano, can still pick up its quiet signals. It's like listening to a whisper across a wide valley, or hearing the first crack in an iceberg before it breaks. What's even more amazing is that some animals seem to hear these sounds naturally. Birds and elephants, for example, have been known to flee volcanic areas before an eruption, even when humans sensed nothing unusual. Are they listening to the same infrasound waves? Are they tuned in to a layer of the world we've only just begun to understand? Maybe. There's still so much to learn. But one thing is clear: volcanoes are not silent. They may be quiet for a time, they may sleep for years, but when they stir, they speak, with not with fiery explosions right away, but with low, gentle signals, soft tremors in the air, deep vibrations that move through the wind like invisible warnings. And if we learn to hear them, we might just understand what the earth is trying to tell us. So tonight, as you rest beneath the stars, know that somewhere far away a volcano is humming, not with rage, not with noise, but with slow waves of energy, too deep to hear, but not too deep to matter. Because even in silence, the earth speaks. And volcanoes are some of its oldest storytellers. High above the earth, orbiting quietly through space, our satellites are always watching. They take pictures, they track weather patterns, they bounce signals across continents, and, and they help us understand the planet from far above. But there's one strange place where those satellites behave differently. It's a patch of sky over the southern Atlantic Ocean, just off the coasts of South America and southern Africa. At first glance, there's nothing unusual about it. No wild storms, no towering mountains, no glowing lights. And, and yet, something about this zone confuses our instruments. Satellites passing through it often glitch, and compasses wobble. Radiation levels spike, and for a few moments, things don't quite work the way they should. This mysterious area is called the South Atlantic Anomaly, or SES-A for short, and it's one of the strangest features in Earth's invisible shield, the magnetic field. Let's start with that shield. The Earth is surrounded by a magnetic field, a kind of invisible bubble that protects us from harmful solar radiation. This field is created deep inside the planet, in the swirling liquid metal of the outer core. It stretches far into space, and it deflects charged particles from the sun, keeping us safe from solar winds and cosmic rays. Usually, this field is strong and steady. It guides compasses. It creates the northern and southern lights. If, and it helps birds and sea turtles navigate across oceans. But over the South Atlantic, the field is weaker, much weaker. Cork in this one spot, the protective bubble dips closer to Earth. And when satellites fly through it, they're more exposed to space radiation. That extra radiation can confuse instruments, damage electronic systems, and cause sudden data loss. Some satellites have to shut down parts of their systems when they pass through the anomaly, just to stay safe. Even the Hubble Space Telescope avoids taking pictures when it crosses this zone. So, what causes it? That's the mystery. Scientists believe it may be linked to a strange patch of magnetic field deep within the planet's mantle. Something down there, maybe a region of dense rock or an unusual flow in the outer core, is pulling on the magnetic field and making it uneven. It's as if the Earth's magnetic heart is skipping a beat, and that ripple reaches all the way into space. Another theory suggests that the South Atlantic anomaly may be a sign that Earth's magnetic field is getting ready to flip. Yes, flip. Throughout history, the planet's magnetic poles have reversed many times. North becomes south, south becomes north. These flips happen slowly over thousands of years. And during the transition, the magnetic field becomes weaker and more jumbled, kind of like what we're seeing in the South Atlantic now. Could this anomaly be the early sign of a full magnetic reversal? It's possible, but no one knows for sure. That what we do know is that the anomaly seems to be growing. Over the last few decades, it has expanded and even split into two lobes. Some scientists are watching closely, not because it's dangerous for people on the ground, but because it affects the technology we rely on in space. And even though the anomaly is invisible, it's a powerful reminder Earth is full of hidden forces, fields we can't see, energy we don't fully understand. Right now, planes flying through the area don't report any major problems. People on the ground don't feel a thing. But high above, where satellites fly and signals pass, this patch of sky is still humming with questions. Why here? Why now? And what might it be telling us about the future of our planet? And no one knows yet. But one thing is certain, the South Atlantic anomaly is real. It's not science fiction. It's not imagination. It's part of the Earth's own electromagnetic story, and we're only just beginning to read it. So tonight, as you drift into sleep, imagine the silent satellites passing through the dark sky, pausing, adjusting, waiting, over a quiet patch of ocean where the rules change just a little, where the Earth's invisible shield thins, and where the planet whispers one more secret into the silence of space. We often think of gravity as something that never changes, and it pulls us toward the ground. It keeps the oceans in place. It holds the moon in orbit and gives everything its weight. But what if gravity wobbled? Not everywhere, not all the time, just a little, just before the Earth moves. And this is the strange idea some scientists are exploring, that gravity might shift slightly before an earthquake. It's not something we can feel. Your body doesn't float or suddenly become lighter. But with the right instruments, deep beneath the surface noise, something appears to be happening. It begins with a ripple, not in the ground, but in the gravity field itself. Let's rewind for a moment. Earth's gravity isn't perfectly even. It changes slightly from place to place, depending on the density of the rocks, the shape of the land, and the movement of mass inside the planet. Mountains have more gravity than valleys. Thick crust has more pull than thin crust. It's subtle, but it's there. Normally, these changes are stable, but before certain earthquakes, researchers have noticed something unusual. A tiny change in the strength of gravity, just moments or minutes before the shaking begins. This idea first gained attention in 2011 after the massive earthquake that struck Japan. Scientists had placed sensitive instruments across the country to study earthquakes in real time. One of those instruments detected a strange signal, and a tiny shift in gravity occurring about 1 minute before the seismic waves reached the surface. It wasn't a ground vibration, it wasn't a sound. Could It was a change in the gravitational field caused perhaps by the sudden movement of mass deep underground. Here's how it might work. Even when an earthquake begins, huge amounts of rock shift all at once. This sudden change in mass might slightly alter the local gravity field, not enough for us to notice, but enough for precise sensors to detect. And because gravity moves faster than seismic waves, it reaches the sensors first. Imagine it like this: Enbyr fermented way, and why witted, for where are we checked pertaingen is spread, be pair family fan away. In the aftriup, for the to the wet, for why word, and hen you the pass up, for two lums blive. You drop a stone into a pond. Before the ripples reach the shore, the water underneath shifts ever so slightly. That's what might be happening underground, a hidden warning, a change in balance just before the earth shakes. These early gravity signals are sometimes called prompt elastogravity signals, or PGs. They travel at the speed of light, much faster than the shaking we feel. And if we could learn to measure them clearly, we might one day use them to predict earthquakes in real time, giving people precious seconds to take cover or flee. Right now, we can't quite do that. The signals are incredibly faint, and they can be lost in the noise of normal environmental changes. Only a few sensors in the world are sensitive enough to detect them, and even then, the data is tricky to interpret. But the idea is exciting because it suggests that the Earth gives us a small warning, not in sound, not in motion, but in gravity itself. Some researchers are working on building better instruments, more sensitive detectors, algorithms that can pick out gravity shifts from all the other noise. The hope is that in the future, this could become a powerful tool, one that helps us understand earthquakes, not just by what they destroy, but by what they quietly signal before they strike. Well, it's still a young area of research, and not everyone agrees on how reliable these signals are. But the possibility is there, and it's enough to keep scientists watching. Because if we can detect even a few seconds of warning, that might be the difference between danger and safety, between panic and preparation. Gravity has always been there, steady, invisible, dependable, but maybe it's more than just a force. Maybe it's a messenger, a quiet shift in the balance of the planet before everything moves. If- So tonight, as you lie still and feel the gentle pull of the earth holding you to the ground, remember, even gravity isn't always constant. Sometimes, just before the world changes, it whispers. Have you ever felt off for no reason? A little tired, a little foggy, maybe restless, maybe anxious. No big event, no clear explanation, just a shift in your mood. Some scientists think the reason might be above your head, not in the clouds, but in the magnetic field that surrounds the Earth. It turns out the planet's magnetic field isn't just for compasses and satellites. It may also have an effect on something deeply personal: our feelings, our focus, and even our mental health. Let's start with what we know. Earth is wrapped in an invisible magnetic field created by the movement of molten iron in its outer core. This field stretches far into space, creating a protective bubble called the magnetosphere. It shields us from solar radiation and cosmic particles, acting like an invisible force field. But sometimes that shield gets disturbed. The sun releases solar flares or coronal mass ejections, giant bursts of charged particles. When those particles reach Earth, they collide with the magnetosphere, shaking it like a drum. This creates what we call a geomagnetic storm. Caridas, Caridas, Drumsentierig oven belag det spak by the wed will the first, and a geomagnetic storm, ferment the geomagnetic storm. You might know geomagnetic storms for the beautiful light shows they create, the northern and southern lights. But some scientists believe they do more than just paint the sky. They may also influence us in subtle, surprising ways. Over the past few decades, researchers have explored how these magnetic storms might affect human biology. They've looked at hospital records, mood surveys, heart rate data, and even suicide statistics. And while the science is still unfolding, some patterns have appeared. In certain studies, spikes in geomagnetic activity have been linked to changes in sleep, mood, anxiety, and concentration. Some people report feeling more irritable or tired during strong magnetic storms. Others experience headaches, confusion, or even bursts of creativity. It's important to say, not everyone feels this, and the effects, if they exist, are subtle. But the idea is simple: that bottle, they love and leads, bower the fellive dot bottle, and more the fellive dot plea of simple to mauk. Our brains and bodies run on electricity. Tiny signals move through our nerves, helping us think, feel, and move. And just like a radio can pick up static during a storm, maybe our minds are sensitive to changes in Earth's magnetic rhythm. One theory is that the pineal gland, deep inside the brain, is involved. This tiny structure helps regulate sleep by releasing melatonin. Some scientists believe the pineal gland might be sensitive to magnetic fields. When those fields shift, the gland may release more or less melatonin, affecting how we sleep, dream, and feel. Another theory connects magnetism to the heart. Our hearts have their own electrical patterns, and researchers have studied whether geomagnetic storms might influence heart rate variability, a marker linked to stress, calmness, and emotional resilience. Then there's the psychological side. Some people are simply more sensitive to changes in their environment. They may not know why they're feeling different, but they are. And sometimes that shift lines up with the timing of a magnetic storm. It's worth noting that this field of research is still full of questions. Not all studies agree. The, some show clear patterns, others find no connection at all. And scientists continue to debate how strong the effects really are. But whether or not geomagnetic storms truly influence us, the idea invites a powerful reflection. And what if we are more connected to the Earth than we realize? What if our moods are not just shaped by our thoughts or our past, but by the silent rhythm of a planet in motion, the tug of magnetic tides, the pulse of solar winds, the whisper of distant storms in space? It's a comforting thought and a humbling one that, as we go about our daily lives, thinking, feeling, dreaming, We're doing so inside a living field of energy, a space that stretches from the core of the Earth to the edge of the atmosphere. And maybe, just maybe, just maybe, we're still learning how it shapes us. And when a day here, but also sejals, so next time you feel something you can't explain, a shift, a stillness, a stirring in the back of your mind, consider this: it might not be you, it might not be you, it might be the earth, changing its rhythm just a little. And maybe your body is listening to the quiet music of magnetism and mood. When we look at the world, we often see it in pieces: the ground beneath us, the air above us, the clouds, the sky, and space beyond. But science tells us that these pieces are all connected, not just by gravity or weather, but by electricity. Not the kind that powers your lamp or charges your phone. This electricity is natural, soft, constant, and it's flowing all around us every day in something called the global electric circuit. Imagine this circuit as an invisible web that wraps around the planet. It connects the surface of the Earth, the air we breathe, the upper atmosphere, and even the space where satellites orbit. And through this giant web, energy is always moving, rising, falling, cycling like breath. Let's break it down slowly. The global electric circuit starts with the Earth itself. Our planet has a negative electric charge at the surface. Not dangerous, just different. Above it, in the atmosphere, are clouds, water vapor, and tiny particles floating in the air. Then, far above that, about 30 to 600 miles up, is the ionosphere. This is a layer of charged particles, energized by sunlight and cosmic rays. It has a positive charge, the opposite of the Earth's surface. So we have negative at the ground, positive at the sky, and air in between. That's a natural setup for an electric circuit, like the wires inside a battery. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Every day, around the world, thousands of thunderstorms are active. And inside those storms, lightning strikes over and over again. Each bolt of lightning isn't just light and sound, it's also a jolt of electricity that helps power the entire circuit. In fact, lightning acts like a global battery charger. It keeps the difference in charge between Earth and the ionosphere balanced. Without it, the whole system would slowly go still. And this isn't a theory. We can measure it. Even on calm days, scientists can detect a small but steady electric current flowing between the surface and the sky. It's usually about 100 volts for every meter of height. That means as you climb a mountain, the voltage increases, softly, steadily, invisibly. But the current doesn't just stay up there. It touches us too. The Some researchers believe this electric field may influence everything from the way clouds form, to how radio waves travel, to how our brains function. Yes, even our brain activity may be linked to this field. Our bodies run on electricity. Tiny signals move through our nerves. Our hearts beat with electric rhythm. Our brainwaves, alpha, beta, theta, are measured in hertz, just like radio waves and lightning pulses. So, what happens when the environment around us, the global circuit, changes? During solar storms, for example, when charged particles from the sun shake the Earth's magnetic field, the ionosphere changes. That change affects the flow of electricity in the global circuit. And some scientists wonder, could that affect us too? Could changes in the electric sky ripple down into our thoughts, our moods, our sleep? It's a fascinating idea, and while science doesn't have all the answers yet, There's growing interest in how these invisible forces might connect us more deeply to the planet. There's also evidence that animals, birds, bees, sea turtles use the electric field to navigate. They may feel the circuit in ways we don't fully understand. Migrating birds, for instance, can detect magnetic fields and possibly electric fields too, using them like a map in the sky. And what about plants? Some research suggests that plants respond to electric fields as well, opening and closing their leaves, adjusting how they grow, even how they absorb nutrients. So we're not just living on Earth, we're living in something, a vast invisible system of energy, moving quietly through soil, air, clouds, and sky. And it's all connected, from the deep rumble of a thunderstorm to the flash of lightning across a horizon, to a spark of thought in your brain. You are part of the circuit. You're inside the web, and maybe, just maybe, you've felt its touch without even knowing. So the next time you see a flash of lightning in the distance, or hear the low roll of thunder, or know that something much bigger is flowing through that moment, an ancient global pulse rising from the earth, touching the clouds, and returning again. And you, resting beneath it all, are quietly, beautifully connected to it. High above our heads, far beyond the clouds but still not quite space, is a strange and glowing part of the sky called the ionosphere. It's invisible to the eye. You can't see it during the day or night, but it's always there, stretching from about 30 to 600 miles above the Earth. And even though we don't think about it much, this layer of charged particles plays a huge role in how energy and signals move across the planet. The ionosphere is full of electricity. It's made up of atoms and molecules that have been charged by sunlight. This means they've lost or gained electrons, making them more reactive. Every time sunlight hits the Earth, it energizes this region, causing it to shimmer with invisible activity. But lately, scientists have been noticing something else. Something strange. The ionosphere pulses, not with light, not with sound, but with bursts of energy, strange radio waves, and mysterious signals that sometimes interfere with our technology and that we don't fully understand. Let's start with what we do know. The ionosphere helps reflect radio waves back to Earth. That's how long distance radio communication is possible. The waves bounce off the ionosphere like a mirror in the sky, but sometimes that mirror flickers. Radio signals get lost. They fade in and out, or they disappear altogether in what's known as a radio blackout. These blackouts can happen suddenly. No warning, no storm on the ground, just silence in the airwaves. What causes them? Often the answer points to the sun. When the sun releases powerful bursts of energy called solar flares or coronal mass ejections, those charged particles travel through space and collide with the Earth's magnetic field. The result is a temporary overload in the ionosphere. The layer becomes more active, more charged, and more chaotic. Radio waves can't pass through properly. Satellites lose signal. Air traffic controllers may lose touch with pilots. GPS systems can glitch. But here's where it gets even more mysterious. Sometimes pulses from the ionosphere appear even without a solar flare. Bursts of radio energy, sudden frequency changes, low rumbles that ripple through the electromagnetic spectrum. We detect them, you, we record them, but we don't always know where they come from. Some pulses are natural, caused by lightning storms or shifts in the Earth's magnetic field. Others might be linked to human activity, like radio towers, military communication, or even underground testing. But there are also signals that don't match anything we know. In they appear and vanish. They pulse with strange rhythms. Sometimes they repeat. You sometimes they don't. They come from the sky, but not from space. They come from the earth, but not from its surface. They live in that in-between zone, the ionosphere. In recent years, scientists have discovered more about this mysterious region using satellites, weather balloons, and ground based sensors. They've observed fast radio bursts, high frequency waves that dance between clouds and space, and even LF and VLF waves, extremely low frequency and very low frequency waves that are nearly impossible for us to hear, but can travel around the world. These waves don't behave like regular sound. They don't travel in straight lines. They wrap around the planet, bounce between the ground and the ionosphere, and sometimes arrive in places far from where they started. It's like the Earth is whispering to itself, is and the ionosphere is carrying the message. There are also phenomena called sprites, blue jets, and elves, bursts of energy that flash upward from thunderstorms into the ionosphere. They're too fast to see with the naked eye, but cameras and satellites have caught glimpses of these skyborne pulses. They add to the mystery. Well, because for every question we answer about the ionosphere, new ones appear. Why do some frequencies pulse in perfect rhythms like music? Why do some waves change direction without a clear source? And are these signals random or part of a pattern we haven't yet recognized? The answers are still hiding in the static. But one thing is clear, the ionosphere is alive with energy. It's not just a quiet shell around the Earth. It's a restless, shifting space where light, magnetism, and electricity all mix and move. So the next time you listen to the radio, or check your GPS, or hear thunder in the distance, know that above you, in a place just beyond sight, the earth and sky are still talking, and their conversation is filled with pulses, bursts, and waves, carrying messages we're only beginning to hear. Mountains feel solid, Izamsi, steady, immovable. They rise above valleys, break through the clouds, and cast long shadows across the land. To most of us, they seem like the most stable part of the earth, heavy, ancient, and still. But science tells a quieter, stranger story. Some mountains aren't completely still. In fact, they move, not in great leaps or sudden collapses, but in tiny microscopic shifts, rising and falling ever so slightly each day, like they're taking slow, deep breaths. This gentle motion is real. It's been measured, and it's called the Earth tide, a phenomenon that makes parts of our planet subtly rise and fall under invisible forces. So, what causes it? The answer starts far beyond the mountains, with the moon. Just as the moon pulls on the oceans to create the tides we see at the beach, it also pulls on the earth itself. Yes, even solid rock is affected by gravity. When the moon is overhead, its gravitational pull tugs on the planet, causing the surface to stretch ever so slightly. When it moves away, the surface relaxes back down. It's not just the oceans that swell and fall. The land does too. De don't harm to long peeve, and de does or brave, and pie planned, wit nail pits. And so, each day, the ground beneath us subtly moves. Mountains lift by just a few centimeters, then settle back again. Not enough for us to feel, but enough for sensitive instruments to detect. and it's as if the earth is breathing in slow motion, a breath that takes hours to inhale and just as long to let go. The moon isn't alone in this, and the sun also pulls on the earth, though its effects are a bit smaller. And when the moon and sun align, during full moons and new moons, the tidal pull becomes stronger. On those days, the Earth's breath is just a little deeper. Scientists have used GPS stations, laser measurements, and seismometers to track this motion. In some places, especially near fault lines or volcanic regions, the movement is more noticeable. The rock stretches and shifts like skin, slowly responding to forces from above. But it's not just gravity doing the work. In some mountain regions, changes in air pressure also play a role. When high pressure systems settle over an area, the atmosphere presses down harder on the land. And when the pressure drops during storms or changes in weather, the ground lifts slightly. It's another breath, another slow motion rise and fall. Even temperature matters. As rocks heat up during the day, they expand. At night, they cool and contract. And it's a tiny shift, often less than a millimeter, but it's enough to count. Another quiet breath. To us, these changes are invisible. We walk the same trail every day. We see the same mountain silhouette on the horizon. We feel the ground is firm beneath our feet. But beneath that stillness is movement, soft, rhythmic, ancient. Why does this matter? Because it reminds us that nothing on earth is truly still. Even the tallest mountains, the ones carved by glaciers and formed by fire, are part of the planet's slow, graceful motion. This breathing also helps scientists understand how stress builds in the Earth's crust. It offers clues about how rocks shift before earthquakes, how volcanoes swell before eruptions, and how the planet manages pressure deep underground. There's even poetic beauty in it, and it's the idea that the Earth is alive, not just filled with life, but moving gently on its own, a planet with a pulse, a planet that inhales and exhales, a planet that feels the tug of the moon and the warmth of the sun and responds even in stone. So the next time you stand before a mountain, to, or drive along one, or fly over a snowy ridge far below, remember it's breathing, not in a way you can hear, and not in a way you can feel, but in a way that's just as real. A slow, silent rhythm, hidden beneath the rock, woven into the earth's deepest layers. And as you sleep tonight, while your own breath slows and deepens, the mountains, too, are rising and falling very gently, it with the steady breath of the world. We often think of trees as still, silent, and slow, and rooted in place, unmoving to calm. They sway in the wind. They rustle when the breeze passes through. They change with the seasons. But deep inside and even outside, something stranger is happening. Trees carry electricity, Betrime, not like power lines, not in bright sparks or glowing wires, but in subtle pulses, natural electrical signals that flow through their trunks, their branches, and even the soil beneath their roots. It may sound surprising, but it's true. Trees absorb and emit electrical energy, especially during storms. And some scientists are now asking a bold question. Could forests be part of the Earth's communication network? Let's begin with how trees carry electricity. Inside every tree is a network of tiny tubes that move water, nutrients, and minerals up from the roots to the leaves. This flow, called the xylem, is driven by pressure, evaporation, and chemical balance. But it's also influenced by electrical charge. As water and ions like calcium and potassium move through a tree, they create small voltage differences. This produces a weak but measurable electrical field. In a sense, a tree is like a living battery. Its roots sit in moist, mineral rich soil, the perfect conductor. Its leaves reach up into the air, where energy from sunlight, wind, and even static charges in the atmosphere interact with the surface. And when a storm approaches, we can something changes, and the sky fills with electrical potential. The air becomes charged, and you may have felt it, that stillness before lightning strikes, that tension in the air. Will During this time, trees can become part of the electrical exchange between earth and sky. They act as natural antennas, pulling charges from the ground, sending pulses upward, and interacting with the electromagnetic energy all around. In fact, studies have shown that trees can respond to lightning from miles away, long before the storm arrives. Some trees have even been used as makeshift antennas to detect radio waves and changes in the Earth's electric field. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. In certain conditions, trees can produce short bursts of electrical signals, tiny pulses that seem to respond to changes in temperature, humidity, and even nearby movement. Researchers have placed sensors on trees and recorded electrical activity patterns that change with the time of day, the weather, and the surrounding environment. In other words, trees are not electrically silent. They're alive with tiny signals, slow, rhythmic pulses that we're only just beginning to understand. So, what does it all mean? Some scientists believe these signals may help trees communicate with their environment or even with each other. There's already evidence that trees send chemical messages through their roots using fungal networks known as the Wood Wide Web. Now, we're learning that electrical signals may be part of this forest wide conversation, too. Could a tree warn others of drought or danger? Could a forest shift its behavior based on shared electrical patterns? We don't know yet, but the idea is mesmerizing. And it doesn't stop at the forest floor. It's because if trees are connected to the ground and to the charged sky above, then maybe they're also part of the Earth's larger electric circuit. Earlier, we talked about how the planet has a natural electric field. From the surface to the ionosphere, energy flows in a soft, steady rhythm. Some researchers now believe that trees may help balance or shape that flow, serving as quiet conductors in the planet's electrical orchestra. It's as if the Earth is a living network, and the trees are its tall wooden towers grounded in the soil, touching the air and pulsing gently with power. So the next time you walk through a forest, pause, breathe, place your hand on a tree trunk, and imagine that beneath the bark, tiny waves of energy are moving, not loud, not dangerous, but real. That tree is listening to the earth. It's sensing the sky. And maybe, just maybe, it's sending a signal back. You won't hear it. You won't feel it. But science is beginning to see it. And the more we learn, the more it seems that nature is not quiet, just subtle. The trees are pulsing, the forests are humming, and the earth may be speaking through them, one slow, steady signal at a time. The ocean is deep, dark, and wide. It covers more than 70% of the Earth's surface, and yet we've explored only a small part of it. And beneath the waves lies an entire world we still don't fully understand. Mountains taller than anything on land, canyons deeper than the Grand Canyon, and trenches so far down that sunlight has never touched them. But what's even more mysterious than what we can see is what we can hear, because the ocean makes noise constantly, and some of those sounds recorded by deep sea microphones still defy explanation. Let's start with something called hydrophones. Hydrophones are underwater microphones used by scientists, navies, and researchers. They pick up all kinds of underwater sounds, from whales singing to waves crashing on distant shores. But they also pick up things no one can identify. One of the most famous of these strange sounds is something called the bloop. In 1997, a hydrophone array operated by the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration NOAA picked up an extremely loud, low frequency sound in the South Pacific Ocean. It was so powerful, it was detected by multiple sensors over 3,000 miles apart. It rose in pitch like a long, slow bubble, and hence the nickname, the bloop. And but here's the strange part. But the sound didn't match any known volcano, earthquake, or man-made noise. And while it sounded biological, like it came from a creature, the source would have had to be larger than a blue whale, the biggest animal on Earth. To this day, no one knows for sure what caused it. Some scientists now think it may have come from an ice quake, a large piece of glacier breaking off and falling into the ocean. But not everyone agrees, and, and the mystery of the bloop has never been fully solved. And it's not alone. Hydrophones around the world have picked up many unexplained sounds from the deep. There's the Julia, a loud moaning sound recorded in 1999. There's the upsweep, a series of rising tones that repeat seasonally, often heard near volcanic areas, but never fully traced. There's the slowdown, the whistle, and the train, all real names given to these strange, low frequency ocean sounds. Each one has its own rhythm, its own texture, its own mystery. For some of them only lasted for seconds, others repeated for years, but none of them have ever been linked to a clear source. They're like messages from the deep, and they're like messages from the deep, heard, but not yet understood. So, what could be causing them? There are a few possibilities. Some might be natural, caused by underwater earthquakes, volcanic activity, or shifting ice in the polar regions. Others may be biological, perhaps produced by undiscovered marine animals. And some could be man made, the distant echo of submarines, sonar, or deep sea machinery. But some of the signals don't fit any of those categories. They're too strong, too wide, too, too strange. And that's where the wonder begins. Because the ocean is still the most unexplored part of our planet. There are species we haven't discovered, not ecosystems we haven't reached, and deep trenches that no human has ever seen. In places like the Mariana Trench, the pressure is so intense that very few instruments survive the descent. And yet, even down there, sound travels. In fact, sound moves faster and farther in water than in air. That's why whales can communicate across entire ocean basins, and, and why some of these mysterious sounds can be picked up from thousands of miles away. It's also why sound is one of our best tools for exploring the deep, and why each strange signal recorded by a hydrophone might be a clue to a volcanic vent, and a massive iceberg calving in the Antarctic night, a new species calling out from the darkness, or something else, something we haven't even imagined yet. Some researchers believe that by studying these underwater signals, we might eventually map the movement of tectonic plates, predict deep sea eruptions, or even detect signs of life in the most remote corners of the planet. But for now, many of these sounds remain unexplained, floating through the water, recorded by machines, filed away in archives of strange audio, waiting to be understood. And that's the beauty of it. Even in a world filled with satellites and sensors, there are still places and sounds that remain a mystery. So tonight, as you fall asleep, imagine the ocean, vast, dark, and humming. Far below the surface, a sound echoes through the deep. A slow pulse, a distant call, a whisper from a world we barely know. And maybe, somewhere out there, the sea is still speaking. We just haven't learned its language yet. Beneath the surface of the earth, where sunlight fades and footsteps echo longer than they should, lies a hidden world of sound. Caves, caverns, underground chambers carved by nature or by hands long gone. These places don't just hold darkness and silence, they vibrate, they hum, they sing in their own mysterious way. Some caves are so quiet that you can hear your heartbeat. Others amplify every breath, every footstep, like the earth is listening. But more than just being echo chambers, many caves and underground spaces seem to resonate at specific frequencies, not randomly, li- not accidentally, leal, but in a way that feels intentional. Let's start with a cave in southern France. In a place called Chauvet Cave, some of the oldest cave paintings in the world are found. Horses, lions, mammoths, beautiful, ancient art from over 30,000 years ago. But here's something odd. Many of these paintings are located in areas of the cave that resonate when you make a sound like clapping or humming. Some researchers noticed that when you stand in front of these drawings and make a noise, the cave seems to respond, vibrating softly, creating a deep, lingering echo. Could it be coincidence? Bull, maybe? But some believe that early humans chose these spots on purpose because of how they sounded. That's just one example. Let's go deeper. In the caves beneath Malta, there's a mysterious underground structure called the Hypogeum of Halsaflieni. It's over 5,000 years old. Prese- no one knows exactly who built it or why, but one chamber in the Hypogeum is known as the Oracle Room, and it's famous for its sound. If a person speaks inside this chamber, especially in certain low tones, the sound bounces and amplifies in strange ways. It creates a vibration that seems to fill your body, like the walls themselves are speaking back. And get this, modern sound tests show that the Oracle Room resonates at around 111 hertz, a frequency some researchers say may influence brain activity, especially in areas linked to emotion and intuition. Coincidence? It's hard to say, but this isn't the only place where ancient builders seem to understand sound. In India, some temples have stone pillars that ring like bells when struck. In Peru, parts of Machu Picchu were built with rooms that enhance whispering and project voices in curious ways. And in Greece, the famous amphitheater at Epidaurus can carry the sound of a dropped coin from the stage to the back row, perfectly clear, even though it was built thousands of years ago. Many of these were built long before modern sound science. Yet somehow they're tuned, and caves, especially, seem to hold sound, not just echo it, but amplify, shape, and preserve it. Some scientists believe this has to do with the shape of natural caverns, the curves, the density of the rock, the air pockets. Others think there may be more to it, may- maybe something we've forgotten or never fully understood. And if you think about it, it makes sense. Humans have always been drawn to caves, to hide, to live, to worship, to wonder. These underground spaces offered shelter, but maybe also something deeper. Maybe early humans felt closer to the planet inside those walls. Maybe they heard the earth differently in there. Today, musicians and sound healers sometimes use caves for concerts or meditation because of the way sound lingers, grows, and wraps around you like a blanket. It's calming, but it's powerful, it's ancient, and in a few special cases, some caves even seem to generate their own low frequency sounds, a soft hum or pulsing tone that no one can explain. So, what does it all mean? Could the earth itself be singing in these places? Could ancient people have tuned into frequencies we've long forgotten? Or were these resonances simply natural coincidences that happen to match sacred spaces? Whatever the answer, it's hard not to feel something in these underground halls. A sense of quiet wonder, a feeling that we've stumbled into something sacred, something older than language, something deeper than history, a conversation made of stone, silence, and sound. So tonight, as you rest, imagine walking into a cool, echoing cavern. Your footsteps bounce softly off the walls. A hum, barely there, brushes past your ears. You place your hand on the smooth rock, and it feels warm, alive, listening. Maybe the earth isn't silent after all. Maybe, in these hidden chambers of sound, it has always been trying to tell us something. And maybe, just maybe, it's time we started listening. Across the earth, scattered like whispers from the past, are ancient monuments that still puzzle scientists today. Stonehenge in England, the Great Pyramids of Egypt, and with Machu Picchu in Peru, Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. Massive, mysterious, and often perfectly aligned, not just with the stars, but sometimes with the Earth's own invisible forces. But here's the question that keeps quietly returning. Were these places built where they are for a reason we no longer understand? Because when you look a little closer, something strange begins to appear. Many ancient sites sit on top of magnetic anomalies, places where the Earth's magnetic field behaves oddly. Sometimes it's stronger, sometimes weaker, sometimes it twists, just enough to raise eyebrows and questions. And it's not just one or two sites, it's dozens. It's all around the world. Let's start with Stonehenge. For centuries, people have wondered why those enormous stones were dragged across miles of land just to be placed in a circle. Yes, they mark the solstices. Yes, they echo with ritual and meaning. But did you know that Stonehenge also sits on a subtle magnetic hotspot? Measurements show that the area has an unusually high level of geomagnetic activity. Not dangerous, just different. And Stonehenge isn't alone. In South America, the Nazca Lines, those giant shapes carved into the desert, also rest near magnetic anomalies. So do parts of the Giza Plateau, where the pyramids rise. Coincidence? Maybe, but the pattern continues. At Chaco Canyon in New Mexico, the ancient Pueblo people built complex structures aligned not just with the sun and moon, but also with natural energy lines, now called ley lines. Ley lines are theoretical straight paths that connect sacred or powerful sites across the globe. Some believe they trace the Earth's natural energy grid, almost like invisible veins carrying magnetic or electric charge. And here's where it gets more intriguing. In some of these ancient places, people report strange sensations, tingling skin, dizziness, a feeling of being charged or lightheaded. Sensitive instruments sometimes pick up subtle electromagnetic changes in the air. Again, not harmful, just unusual. So, why would ancient people build here? Did they feel something? Did, did they sense the Earth's quiet pulses better than we can today? Modern life is noisy. Electric grids, cell towers, screens. It's easy to miss the soft background hum of the planet. But thousands of years ago, there was no such noise. Only stars, wind, animals, and the earth itself. It's possible that ancient builders chose these sites because of how they felt. Maybe they noticed that seeds grew faster there, or that dreams were more vivid, or that people felt calmer or more inspired. And it wasn't just the locations, it was the materials too. Many sacred sites used crystalline stones like granite or quartz, which are known to interact with electromagnetic energy. In fact, some modern researchers believe that these stones might amplify or absorb certain frequencies. Could it be that ancient structures were tuned to the Earth, built to resonate with the planet's natural heartbeat, its magnetic pulses, its silent rhythms? We don't know for sure. Science is cautious here. Here, most of these ideas are labeled fringe or unproven, but the physical evidence is there. Pure so fan consider bethingtations, but the first were fermented war, and fernken tonkes, to turspin and aspid toft senchi. Alignments, locations, materials, patterns too strange to ignore. Even today, scientists and explorers use magnetometers to study ancient sites, and every so often they find something unexpected: a spike, a dip, a faint signal in the Earth's breath that says something is different here. And maybe that's all we need. Not a loud answer, not a flashing sign, nine just a gentle sense that some places on Earth are more than they seem. So tonight, imagine walking through one of these ancient places, a circle of stones beneath a sky full of stars. The ground feels a little warmer than usual. The air carries a hush like it's listening. You press your hand to the stone, and for a moment you wonder if it's humming back. Maybe the people who built these wonders weren't just honoring the heavens. Maybe they were listening to the earth. And maybe, just maybe, it's time we started listening again, too. Up above our heads, far beyond the clouds and weather, silent watchers float through space. Satellites, thousands of them, circle the earth, quietly collecting information every second of every day. They measure our atmosphere, our oceans, our land. They map the shape of clouds, track changes in temperature, and even measure the tiny wobbles in the ground. But in recent years, satellites have begun detecting something else, something more mysterious. Not just weather, not just pollution or movement, but rhythms, patterns, pulses from the planet itself. And here's where things get strange. In some cases, satellites have detected changes before major disasters happen. A sudden rise in ground temperature, a strange shift in the magnetic field, new unusual energy bursts from below. It's like Earth sends out a signal, a quiet, invisible cry before something big happens. And the only ones listening are machines in orbit. Take, for example, the 2010 Haiti earthquake. A few days before the quake struck, satellite data showed a rise in infrared radiation above the fault zone. The ground, invisible to human eyes, was heating up. No one knew what it meant at the time, but after the disaster, Researchers went back and looked again, and they found it, the signal before the silence. Similar patterns were found before other big earthquakes in China, in Iran, in India. Each time, satellites picked up subtle changes before the Earth shook. Changes in heat, ki- changes in the Earth's ionosphere, the upper layer of the atmosphere that responds to electric and magnetic activity. Some researchers believe these shifts are caused by the buildup of stress deep underground. As rocks press and grind against each other, they may release gases, change temperature, and disturb the electric balance of the air, but we still don't fully understand it. These are signals without explanations. And it's not just earthquakes. Before some volcanic eruptions, satellites have recorded gentle swells in the ground, like the Earth is breathing in. Sometimes a mountain can rise by just a few centimeters, days or weeks before it erupts. Too small to notice on foot, but from space it's clear. Other times, magnetic pulses flash across certain regions, spikes that don't match the weather or solar activity. Short lived, mysterious, and still largely ignored. Why? Because most of these discoveries are accidental. The satellites weren't designed to look for them, and scientists are still cautious, careful not to overinterpret what they see. But the more we study, the more it seems Earth has a pulse, a pattern, pure or no, a rhythm that changes with stress, strain, and energy deep inside. In fact, some scientists have begun to speak of the planet as having health signals, and just like a human body sends out signs before a fever or a collapse, the Earth might be doing the same. The trouble is, we haven't learned how to read them yet. But what if we did? What if satellites could become the planet's doctors in orbit? What if heat pulses, magnetic flares, and ionospheric ripples could help us predict disasters before they happen? It's possible. Some space agencies are already testing this idea. They're building tools that measure not just surface changes, but subtle shifts in gravity, electricity, and radiation. One mission, called Demeter, was launched by France to study Earth's electric field from space. It found strange disturbances before several major earthquakes, like the planet was sending out whispers of warning. Other satellites now keep watch over wildfire zones, where heat signatures rise suddenly. Some monitor ocean temperatures, which sometimes spike before hurricanes form. And while no single reading can predict the future, the pieces are starting to come together. From space, we can see more than just storms. We can see the planet's hidden pulse. But here's the quiet truth. For even though the data exists, many of these signals are understudied. They don't make headlines. They don't always fit into current models. And so, they get stored away, unexplained and unspoken. It makes you wonder, what if the Earth has been warning us all along? What if our machines are hearing the cries, but we haven't figured out how to listen? Tonight, as you drift off, imagine the Earth as a living, breathing world, a place that shivers when it's stressed, that hums when it's warming, that pulses gently beneath our feet. Above, in the silence of space, satellites turn their eyes downward, watching, noticing, ca- recording, waiting for us to listen, not just to what the Earth says out loud, but to what it whispers. And maybe one day we'll finally understand what it's trying to tell us. Earth's inner core may rotate at a different rate. Recent findings suggest it may even stop or reverse direction. Deep beneath your feet, far below the surface, beyond the crust, the mantle, and even the outer core lies something incredible, a solid metal ball, hotter than the surface of the sun, spinning in its own rhythm, possibly different from everything else above it. This is Earth's inner core. And for decades, scientists believed it rotated slowly, just like the rest of the planet. But recent discoveries suggest something far stranger. It might not be spinning with us, it might be spinning differently. Let's slow things down for a moment and imagine the layers of the Earth. The outermost layer, the crust, is where we live. It's thin, fragile, and broken into tectonic plates. Beneath that is the mantle, thick, hot, and always shifting slowly over time. Then comes the outer core, a swirling sea of molten metal, mostly iron and nickel. It's this moving metal that creates Earth's magnetic field. And finally, deepest of all, is the inner core. It's solid, about the size of the moon, made mostly of iron. And, and until recently, we thought it just spun in sync with the rest of Earth. But now, we're not so sure. In 2023, a study shook the world of geophysics. By comparing decades of seismic wave data, especially from powerful earthquakes, scientists noticed something odd. The waves that traveled through the core didn't always behave the same way. Sometimes they moved faster, sometimes slower. Sometimes the patterns even flipped. It was as if the inner core had slowed down, paused, or even begun to spin in reverse. Think about that for a second. While the Earth spins one way, the heart of our planet might be turning the other. This isn't something you can see or feel. There's no tremor. We'll uncover the love the Poe and Mother Tape the Fight Spite, the love act, Pureds Verdzev, and me no sound. Just a quiet change in rhythm deep below the crust, over hundreds or even thousands of miles. It's like a second clock hidden inside the planet, ticking at its own mysterious pace. Now, to be clear, this doesn't mean the inner core is rapidly spinning backward like a movie reel. The changes are tiny, fractions of a degree per year, but over time, those small shifts add up. Scientists believe the core might swing back and forth like a pendulum. It may rotate a little faster than the surface for a few decades, then slow down, then then spin a little slower before switching directions again. This back and forth motion is called oscillation, and it could take about 60-70 years to complete one full cycle. What causes this? Well, it's still being studied, but one theory is that the magnetic field generated by the outer core interacts with the inner core, pushing and pulling it. Another possibility is gravitational tugging from the mantle above, creating a delicate dance between the layers. But here's where things get even more curious. Some researchers believe these oscillations could affect the length of our days. When the core speeds up slightly, it might shift the planet's mass enough to make days just a bit shorter. When it slows down, days might stretch out by milliseconds. Tiny changes, but real ones. Could this inner movement also affect magnetic field changes, or have something to do with unexplained seismic events? Maybe even influence long term climate cycles? We don't know yet, because we've only been listening to Earth's core for a short time, just a few decades, and the core itself is impossible to reach. We can't dig that far. We can't send machines that deep. Tonight, we can only interpret the whispers that travel through Earth during powerful quakes. And so, our knowledge of the core comes not from seeing, but from hearing through vibrations, echoes, and patterns. It's like listening to a drumbeat through a thick wall. You can't see the drummer, the but you know someone's playing. The idea that the center of the earth could move independently, not following the rest of the planet, makes us realize something profound. The earth isn't just a rock spinning in space. It's a complex, layered being, the, with its own rhythms, its own heart, its own pulse. It, and we're just starting to understand how it all fits together. As you lie back and imagine this massive metal sphere slowly turning far below you, think about how much of the planet we still don't fully know. The core might be our greatest mystery, and how hidden, hot, will tack for side yourself. That will laldreri, tapsabi aids, home their opening, yakstwatafico, biakons what's. Will told ya, and whispering in slow rotations we've only just begun to notice. So next time you stand still and feel grounded, remember there's movement beneath you, not just from tectonic plates or volcanoes, but from the very heart of the earth, a heart that might be beating to its own tempo, waiting for us to learn how to listen. High above the clouds, where storms rage and thunder rolls across the sky, something strange happens, something few people ever see. Most of us think of lightning as something that strikes down, a jagged burst of light reaching from the sky to the ground, loud, bright, sudden, and always pulling our eyes downward. But what if I told you that some lightning doesn't strike down at all? Instead, it shoots up into the upper atmosphere, into the edge of space, into places where no one expected lightning to go. And what it creates are sprites, blue jets, and elves. Yes, elves. That's what scientists call them. These aren't the little magical creatures from fairy tales, and they're real atmospheric events, glowing, flickering shapes that bloom for just a moment in the sky above storms. Let's take them one by one. Close your eyes and picture this gentle parade of strange skylights. To its sprites, the most famous of the bunch. Sprites are reddish, jellyfish shaped bursts of light that appear high above thunderstorms, sometimes as high as 50 miles above Earth. They're massive, some stretch as wide as a city, but they last for just a few milliseconds. You can't see them from the ground unless you're far from the storm and looking just right. But satellites catch them all the time. They shimmer and disappear so quickly, they almost seem like sky illusions. But they're real. And sprites are caused by powerful positive lightning strikes, the kind that pack huge energy and reach high into the sky. When that energy travels upward, it triggers a kind of cosmic hiccup in the upper atmosphere, a brief red bloom, like the sky is blushing, ever so slightly. Blue jets. These are another kind of upward lightning, except they're blue and they shoot in a thin, narrow beam straight up from the top of thunderclouds. They look like glowing electric spears rising tens of miles in just a second. They're harder to see than sprites. U- Usually, only pilots flying above storms catch a glimpse of them, and sometimes only satellites or special high speed cameras can confirm they happened at all. Blue jets are still a mystery. With subcomputer neurons for sealed contact from air-cold behinset in Hurasays, because the dixit couples be. Why do some storms produce them, while others don't? Why are they so focused, so precise like nature's own lightning pointer? Or Paus elves. And now, the oddest one of all. ELV stands for emission of light and very low frequency perturbations due to electromagnetic pulse sources. But most people just call them what they look like, circular flashes of light expanding like rings from a single point. Imagine a ripple in the sky, a huge red halo, sometimes over 200 miles wide, lasting just a thousandth of a second. That's an LF. They occur in the ionosphere, one of the highest layers of Earth's atmosphere, and they're caused by the same powerful lightning that creates sprites and jets. What's fascinating is this. For most of history, we didn't even know these existed. They happen above the clouds, and too high to see from the ground, too fast for the naked eye, too rare for most cameras. It wasn't until satellites, space stations, and ultra sensitive sensors started watching the skies that we discovered them. The first sprite was photographed in 1989 by accident. The camera was pointed at a shuttle launch, and there it was, a glowing red shape above a storm cloud, flickering into view. Since then, researchers have been racing to understand them. But even now, we're not sure what they mean. Why do they happen? Why do they happen? What triggers them exactly? Could they affect space weather or even satellites and aircraft? We know they're not dangerous to people on the ground, but they may play a bigger role in Earth's electrical balance than we realize. Some scientists even wonder if they're part of a much larger atmospheric system, a hidden dialogue between Earth and space. Electric signals pulsing in both directions, up and down, and we're only just beginning to hear it. So the next time lightning flickers in the distance, remember what you see striking downward might only be half the story. High above the clouds, unseen to the eye, the sky is lighting up in ways we're still learning to understand. Sprites, jets, and elves become nature's secret lightning show. Soft, strange, and hidden in plain sight. All part of Earth's silent language, still whispering, still waiting to be decoded. Most people think of earthquakes as quick, violent events. A sudden jolt, a brief shake, a moment of chaos, followed by silence. But that's not always true. Isn't heno with a dempty Kasherman kolp, and of course it's spadpulse bore. Because sometimes the shaking doesn't stop. Not on the surface, maybe, but deep within the earth, just where the crust, the mantle, and even the core remember. For hours after a major earthquake has ended, the planet continues to hum, a low, deep sound, a vibration, a kind of echo, and one that circles the earth. Again and again, like a bell that keeps ringing long after it's struck. Let's slow down and listen more closely to these echoes. When a strong earthquake hits, it sends out seismic waves in all directions. Some travel quickly. These are called P waves, pressure waves. P Others move slower and do more shaking, S waves or shear waves. But after those initial waves fade away, a third type of wave lingers, a quiet kind, called surface waves. These waves can travel around the Earth's crust for hours, sometimes days. They're slower, deeper, and gentler than the quake's violent start, but they carry the signature of the earthquake like a fingerprint left behind. And when scientists look at ultra sensitive instruments, they see something amazing. The Earth keeps vibrating. But in 2004, after the massive earthquake near Sumatra, something extraordinary happened. It was one of the most powerful quakes ever recorded. And while the deadly shaking lasted only minutes, the vibrations lasted for weeks. Seismologists recorded slow, rhythmic pulses echoing through the planet, a low hum, barely detectable to the human ear, but clear on their charts and machines. They called it the Earth's free oscillation, like a bell or a gong ringing. The planet itself had been struck so hard that it continued to wobble ever so slightly for days and days. You might wonder, why don't we feel this? The answer is simple. These echoes are too low, too smooth, and too slow for our bodies to notice. But the Earth's instruments feel them, deep underground, in quiet labs, in mountains, deserts, even ocean floors. Sensitive seismographs detect the pulse, and sometimes the waves circle the Earth several times, fading slowly, but never truly stopping all at once. And these echoing earthquakes tell us something profound. That Earth has memory, not in a human way, but in a physical one. Its rocks, its crust, its layers, they remember every strike, and they process it slowly. They settle, they shift, they sing. And these deep signals may carry more than just aftershocks. They might warn us of stress still stored underground. They might hint at future tremors, or reveal where pressure is building up again. In a sense, they are whispers of things to come. There's something poetic about it. A planet so massive, still so sensitive, like a giant tuning fork, humming softly after it's been tapped. Some scientists believe these long echoes could hold keys to better predictions. If we understand how the echoes fade, how they change shape over time, we might one day detect earthquakes before they happen, or at least earlier. Gentler warnings, quieter alarms, like listening for a far off train before it reaches the tracks. So the next time you hear about an earthquake, remember, the shaking you see on the news may be just the beginning. Cut deep below us, out of sight and out of sound, the earth continues to move, to murmur, to human, for hours, sometimes for days. Go, not in fear, not in chaos, but in rhythm. It's the sound of a living world processing stress, a soft reminder that even after the drama ends, nature takes time to breathe. And if we listen carefully, we just might hear the planet's echo, a deep, slow lullaby sung from the belly of the earth itself. Sometimes science doesn't miss things because they're hidden. It misses them because it wasn't looking. And that's the quiet question tonight. What if Earth has been whispering truths for years, but we haven't been listening simply because those whispers didn't fit into the boxes we built? Think about it. And from sicking to the prof, everyone did, and whether we're in school, we're taught how the Earth works: tectonic plates, weather patterns, magnetic fields, and gravity. Neat diagrams, predictable rules, a planet that plays by formulas. But Earth is not a machine. It breathes, because it pulses, it surprises, and often, when something doesn't fit our models, when a reading is too strange, or a signal doesn't repeat, we call it an error, or worse, we ignore it completely. Let's start with a simple example: strange noises and low, rumbling hums that people around the world have reported for decades. They don't come from factories, they don't match airplane routes, and, and they don't stop, sometimes going on for hours, days, or weeks. Some people call them the hum. Others say it sounds like the earth is groaning in its sleep. Scientists have recorded these sounds, but many still write them off as local interference or natural coincidence. The truth is, we're not entirely sure, and because we can't explain them, they get pushed aside. Now consider the signals we've already discussed in earlier chapters: gravity anomalies before earthquakes, flashes of light in the sky before tremors, animals reacting hours or even days before disaster strikes, trees that pulse with electricity, you volcanoes that hum warnings we can't hear, all real, all recorded. But many of these observations don't have a place in our current understanding of Earth systems. So instead of investigating deeper, they're labeled as inconclusive, filed away, left to gather dust in data logs. But here's the thing about science, and how it doesn't grow by repeating what it already knows. It grows by asking, what did I miss? What doesn't fit? What deserves a second look? Why are we so hesitant to do that with Earth's signals? Maybe it's because we like answers that feel safe, to predictable, pure fantasy here, measurable. Unexplained signals feel too mysterious, too slippery, will, and sometimes too uncomfortable. Because if the planet is trying to communicate, and we don't understand the language, and we don't understand it means we're not as in control as we like to think. There's also another quiet reason we might ignore these signs, and money and attention. And big funding often goes to big problems: oil exploration, climate change modeling, earthquake prediction systems. And while those are crucial, they leave little room for mysteries and for soft questions, for curious scientists who say fair, hey, did anyone else notice this strange pattern? Sometimes the signals don't get ignored because they're unimportant. They get ignored because they're inconvenient. But imagine if we flipped the approach. Instead of asking, does this match our model? We ask, what is the Earth trying to tell us? Instead of dismissing one time events, we track them. Instead of silencing anomalies, we spotlight them. Instead of only listening with machines, we listen with wonder. Because every discovery once started as an outlier, a glitch in the data, a weird reading, until someone, somewhere, decided to pay attention. So here's a thought to carry with you as you drift off tonight. What if we're surrounded by signals every day? From the soil, the wind, the oceans, even the trees, but we miss them because we weren't trained to see them? What if the Earth has been trying to tell us something not in equations, but in rhythms, in pulses, in quiet shifts? And what if, just by listening a little differently, we could hear more than we ever expected? Maybe the real question isn't, is Earth sending signals? Maybe it's, are we finally ready to hear them? Let your mind stay open to wonder. Let it rest gently in questions instead of rushing to answers. Because sometimes the biggest clues are hidden in the quietest places. And when we stop only searching for what we expect, we begin to see what was there all along. What signals are we drowning out? Ab- We live on a very noisy planet, not just noisy with traffic, voices, and machines, but noisy with invisible signals, frequencies, now waves, pulses moving through the air, underground, and even beneath the sea. Most of these aren't natural, they're made by us, by our technology, by the growing cloud of machines that surround modern life. And while many of these signals serve a purpose, communication, research, navigation, they may also be interfering with something else, something older, something quieter, sheep, natural signals, the ones the Earth has been sending long before we ever learned how to listen. So tonight we ask, in our rush to wire the world, what if we started to drown out? Let's begin with something familiar: satellites. Every day, more and more satellites are launched into orbit. They beam radio signals, GPS data, TV broadcasts, and internet coverage. They're useful, no doubt, but they also send constant waves of electromagnetic energy through the atmosphere. And sometimes those waves bounce. They reflect. They interfere with other signals, including the faint ones that rise naturally from Earth itself. Researchers trying to study subtle magnetic shifts or atmospheric pulses often find their data polluted by static. Static caused by the very tools we use to explore the planet. It's like trying to hear a whisper in a room full of shouting. Then there's HARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. It's a real scientific facility in Alaska that studies the ionosphere, the upper layer of Earth's atmosphere. HARP uses powerful radio waves to heat small areas of that layer. It's a way to study how solar energy interacts with Earth's magnetic field. But HARP has also become the center of controversy. Some people worry that the intense waves it emits could affect more than just research. They ask whether those waves might disrupt natural frequencies, the Schumann resonance, for example, or other delicate patterns in Earth's electromagnetic skin. The science is still unclear, but the question is worth asking. When we shoot energy into the sky, do we know everything it touches? Beneath the oceans, the story continues. Submarines, especially military ones, communicate using extremely low frequency LF waves. These waves can travel vast distances through seawater and even into the ground. But those same frequencies exist in nature too. The Earth uses LF to send signals from lightning, volcanoes, and tectonic plates. Some animals rely on these frequencies to migrate and navigate, and whales, birds, sea turtles. When we flood those frequencies with our own signals, what happens to the creatures trying to follow the Earth's map? Do they get lost? The confused? Or worse, do they stop listening? There's also something subtler to consider: power lines, Wi Fi routers, cell towers, even your phone. All of these constantly emit electromagnetic radiation, not harmful in small doses, but together they build a kind of background fog, a fog of man made noise that floats around us. In cities, it's thick; in rural areas, less so. But even the most remote parts of the world are not truly silent anymore. This fog may not seem important, but to sensitive instruments, and perhaps even to the earth itself, it's like a sheet pulled over a speaker. It muffles, it distorts, it hides. Prepare, fan, find, bring. Brand. Now, let's circle back to the bigger question: are we missing something because of the very tools we use to study it? It's a quiet irony. We've built machines to observe the planet, pure, but those machines may be silencing the very signals we hope to hear. What if buried deep in the static are rhythms we've never noticed? Warnings before a disaster, shifts in the core patterns in magnetic drift. What if the earth is humming a lullaby or shouting an alarm and we just can't hear it anymore? So tonight, as you drift into sleep, consider this: nature speaks in whispers. Technology often shouts our, and while we need both, maybe we've forgotten how to be still enough to hear the older voice. The voice of stone, the voice of water, the voice of roots, lightning, and tectonic breath. They're still speaking, even now, but like tuning an old radio, We may need to dial down the noise to truly hear. Strange correlations between planetary rhythms and brainwave cycles. Coincidence or entanglement? Close your eyes for a moment. Take a slow breath and imagine that deep inside your brain, waves are gently rising and falling, not unlike tides in the ocean. And now, picture those same rhythms mirrored far above you, in the Earth's atmosphere, in the magnetic field, and even in the pulse of the planet itself. What if your brain, the most private and complex thing you own, is quietly syncing with Earth's natural signals? Scientists have long known that the brain works in waves, alpha waves, but that waves, delta and beta, each with its own frequency, its own rhythm, like a radio station your brain is always tuned to. These brain waves shape how we feel, how we think, and when we sleep, dream, focus, or relax. All of it depends on which wave is rising and which one is falling. Now, here's where things get strange. Earth also has its own waves, and they're called Schumann resonances. They're global electromagnetic pulses that echo between the Earth's surface and the bottom edge of space. They happen all the time, caused by lightning, atmospheric pressure, and solar energy. And the odd thing? The primary Schumann resonance vibrates at around 7.83 hertz. The tantalum, that number might not mean much on its own, until you realize that it matches almost exactly with alpha brain waves. Alpha waves are what your brain uses when you're relaxed, meditating, or just before sleep. They create that floating, dreamy state where your thoughts slow down and your body lets go. It's as if, when we calm down, we naturally match the frequency of the planet. Coincidence? Maybe. But some researchers think it's more than that. But they wonder, what if our brains evolved in tune with the planet's rhythms because we were always immersed in them? What if we're like instruments, quietly resonating with the Earth's background? Even stranger, some experiments show that during strong geomagnetic storms, when the Earth's field is disrupted by solar flares, people report more anxiety, better sail pub, restless sleep, odd dreams, but emotional spikes. Hospitals see slightly more heart attacks. Emergency calls go up. Again, it's subtle, if, but enough to raise eyebrows. For is it possible that when Earth's rhythms shift, our inner rhythms shift too? Let's go a step further. The pineal gland in your brain, sometimes called the third eye in spiritual traditions, is sensitive to magnetic fields. It controls melatonin, the hormone that helps you sleep and wake. Some scientists believe changes in Earth's field could influence how this gland behaves. That might explain why you feel more tired on certain days, even without a reason, or why you wake up at 3 a.m. for no clear cause. It's like your body is reacting to something beyond your control, like a signal in the background you didn't know you were tuned into. Of course, not everyone agrees. Many researchers say the data is still too weak, too anecdotal, too easy to misread. They urge caution, and yet, the correlations keep showing up to the again and again. Some even claim that during meditation or moments of deep stillness, brainwave readings start to lock in with the Schumann resonance. The two rhythms become indistinguishable. That's not proof of entanglement, no, but it's enough to make you wonder, are we thinking alone? And Or are we thinking with the planet? Let's slow down and consider the quiet beauty of it. Maybe the earth isn't just a home. Maybe it's a rhythm, and we are part of its song. When we feel peace, when we breathe deeply, deeply, when our minds go quiet, maybe we're not just resting, maybe we're finally in tune, like tuning forks that hum together from across a room, like two hearts beating at the same pace. So tonight, as you close your eyes and drift into sleep, listen for something deeper. Not words and not thoughts, but that soft hum beneath it all. Maybe your brain is simply responding to the planet's whisper. Maybe that's what dreams are, Earth's waves, gently brushing the shore of your mind. Sleep well, resonant traveler. You're not alone in your rhythm. Your rhythm. We've spent centuries trying to understand our planet by watching it. We watch storms build on radar. We watch fault lines shift on seismographs. We watch satellites track wildfires and droughts from above. But what if the key to understanding Earth isn't in watching, but in listening? Because lately, that's exactly what scientists are starting to do. And with the help of powerful new tools, they're hearing things they never noticed before. Not just earthquakes and eruptions, but gentle vibrations, distant pulses, subtle whispers deep beneath the surface. Patterns that are too complex for human ears, but not too complex for machines. Let's start with a sound we once ignored. No, something called the Earth's hum. Even when there are no earthquakes, even when everything seems still, the planet is quietly vibrating. These vibrations are incredibly low frequency, almost silent, and for years we didn't know they existed. But now, with super sensitive seismic networks and AI enhanced sensors, scientists can pick up these gentle tremors and map them in detail. They've discovered that this hum isn't random, it has patterns. It flows across continents. It changes with the seasons. And sometimes it spikes before natural disasters. Why does the earth hum like this? Pure, no one's entirely sure. But by listening more closely, we're learning how alive the planet really is. They can say to the torn, another powerful listener? AI. Artificial intelligence can now analyze thousands of seismic records at once, far more than any human ever could. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't blink. It just listens endlessly. And when it listens, it finds hidden tremors. And when tiny quakes that used to be lost in the noise, silent slips of rock deep underground, unusual echoes that ripple across fault lines. Some of these might be early warnings for larger events. Others might help us understand the complex movements of tectonic plates. And some are still total mysteries, but they're no longer ignored. Ignored because now we can hear them. These AI tools are also being used to decode volcanic infrasound, those ultra low rumbles that volcanoes make before erupting. By feeding thousands of hours of volcanic data into machine learning models, researchers are building systems that can predict eruptions with more accuracy than ever before. It's like giving the volcano a voice and then teaching a computer how to understand its language. The ocean has a voice too. Deep sea microphones called hydrophones are constantly recording strange sounds under the waves. Some of these are marine animals, but others are unexplained pulses, low drones that travel for hundreds of miles, or loud booms with no clear source. With AI's help, Scientists are beginning to catalog these oceanic sounds, identify patterns, and even trace them to underwater volcanic activity or distant tectonic shifts. The ocean, like the Earth, has been speaking all along. We're just finally learning how to listen. Some researchers are even combining data, seismic hums, electromagnetic pulses, atmospheric waves, to create a kind of full body scan of the planet. Imagine seeing how the Earth's crust trembles, how its magnetic field shifts, how energy pulses through the core to the sky. That's what new AI assisted platforms are attempting to do, to listen, not to one signal, but to many at once, and find the hidden patterns between them. Because sometimes it's not the sound itself that matters, be- but the rhythm it keeps. Quote, so, what happens when we finally listen? We hear new things. We hear old things in new ways. We notice patterns we missed. And we begin to understand that Earth has always been more than a ball of rock and water. It's a living system pulsing with life and movement and hidden messages. The real question isn't whether Earth is speaking, it's whether we've been quiet enough to hear it. And now that we're finally listening, what else will we discover? What secrets are still humming just beneath the noise? We'll take a deep breath, let the thoughts settle in. Maybe the next great discovery won't come from a telescope or a satellite and wink at Tacoma, but from a quiet moment when we stop trying to see everything and finally start to listen. If the earth could speak, what would it say? Would it whisper or roar? Would it comfort us or warn us? Pure, would it sing us lullabies or shake us awake? The we often think of the earth as silent, a background, a stage for our human stories. But what if it's been speaking all along? Through trembling ground, humming air, flickering skies, through waves, wind, and shifting magnetic fields. Maybe we just never knew how to listen. Because every day the planet moves, it shifts, it sighs, it glows and groans, pulses and pauses, and it sends signals we've learned to call scientific. But beneath those numbers and charts, what if there's something more? What if these signals are messages? Not in words, but in rhythms, not in sentences, but in patterns. A long, low vibration deep under the Pacific. What does that mean? A human heard in cities but not in forests. Why? Why? Trees crackling with electricity during storms. Not just once, but every time the clouds gather. Are these warnings? Are they music? Are they the planet's way of saying, I am alive too? If Earth were trying to warn us, maybe it wouldn't do it with sirens or red lights. Maybe it would do it with magnetic anomalies in the sky, with gravity shifts beneath our feet, with animals running inland before a wave appears. Eh, maybe it would tell us things the only way it knows how, through tremors and pulses, pulses through the steady beat of its ancient heart. Maybe it's already tried. Maybe it tries every day. Or maybe Earth isn't warning us. Or maybe it's guiding us. After all, birds know how to fly thousands of miles, guided by the planet's magnetic field. Pure fan a street. Whales sing across oceans and navigating through sound. What if those same signals are guiding us too, in ways we don't yet understand? What if we're part of the song and just forgot the melody? And then there's a gentler idea that the earth isn't warning or guiding, but simply being, expressing its nature, like a heartbeat, like a breath, not trying to tell us something urgent, but something eternal. That change is constant, and that silence is full of life, that everything is connected, even the parts we cannot see or hear. A tree doesn't grow to warn you, a volcano doesn't erupt to punish, a mountain doesn't breathe to impress. They just do. But in doing so, they remind us that we're not alone on this planet, that life is always pulsing around us, that Earth has a rhythm of its own, and we've only ever danced to it without realizing. So, what might the Earth be trying to say? Maybe, I've been here longer than you can imagine. I carry your history, your future, and your footsteps. I don't need to shout, I speak in patterns. When you feel a breeze, I'm brushing past your worries. When you feel a tremor, I'm stretching my old bones. When the tides rise and fall, I'm breathing, bold. And maybe also, I've noticed your machines, your noise, your forgetting. I've noticed the silence you no longer seek. Leave the I've sent signals, not to scare you, but to remind you to listen, to pause, to feel the ground, to look at the sky, to remember that this world doesn't just hold you, it speaks to you. If you're willing to hear, some signals are gentle, some are strange, if some shake cities, some hover just beneath our awareness, but all of them are part of the same voice, the voice of a planet that's not quiet, but deeply alive. And if we ever learn to listen to it fully, what else might we understand? Would we learn to live more gently? Would we find patterns that protect us? Would we finally feel at home? Take a slow breath. Let your body sink into stillness. And imagine, just for a moment, that the earth is not beneath you, and but beside you, speaking softly, not in fear, not in anger, but in rhythm and in peace. And and now that you've begun to hear, can you ever unhear it? Or will part of you always be listening? Sometimes we think silence means nothing is happening. That it's the space between the action, the pause before the story begins again. But what if we've misunderstood silence? What if silence is not empty, but full? Inischen full, indischen full, and full deceptors, peklius uriu, teeth with ode gujte withdrawed, the caint of the Paris in a loved one, full of tiny messages, full of movement, too slow for our clocks, of sounds too soft for our ears, of signals too strange for our models to explain. We often measure meaning by noise. We think the louder something is, the more important it must be. But Earth doesn't follow that rule. It never has. The most important things the planet does, it does in silence. A tree growing in the night doesn't make a sound. Its roots push through soil with patience. Its leaves reach for the moon quietly. The tectonic plates beneath your feet may shift slightly, in a way no one can feel. Until months later, a mountain moves or a quake begins. With even the Earth's heartbeat, those slow letocrabnonectic pulses, it's called Schumann resonances, Anzurds, aren't heard with ears. They live in the atmosphere, invisible and constant, a kind of low, silent music that the Earth has played since the beginning. We've spent so long training ourselves to hear the loud things, explosions, alarms, breaking news. We sometimes forget that truth is not always loud. Some signals only whisper, and only those willing to be still. To be still, ever notice them? Think about the hums people hear late at night. Some say it's just traffic, others say it's inside their head, but others suspect that the earth is humming, something ancient, and only a few are tuned to its frequency. Or the way animals suddenly flee before an earthquake. No roaring, no shaking yet, just a shift, subtle, maybe magnetic, and the silence becomes different. They listen, we ignore, because silence doesn't demand our attention, it simply offers it. Science is beginning to listen too, because thou dost multiplier. We now have machines that detect the faintest tremors, satellites that pick up quiet heat signature before eruptions or quakes, and sensors that notice tiny gravity changes before the ground even moves. And, and what do they find? And what do they find? That the earth always gives a sign. It just doesn't shout. And as it nudges, till it pulses, it whispers. And when we ignore that, it doesn't stop speaking. We just stop hearing. In our own lives, too, fewer lives, too, in our own. Silence is often when the most powerful things happen: healing, grief, understanding, growth. These don't come with noise, but they come with stillness, nef- with long walks, with deep breaths, with quiet nights when the brain finally slows down and the heart can catch up. Earth works the same way. So maybe the silence we feel isn't empty. Maybe it's full of everything we need to know, if we only learn to listen. What if those moments of stillness are not pauses, but conversations waiting to begin? What if, in the quietest corners of the earth, truth lives? Not truth made of words or formulas, but of rhythms, of pulses and pauses, of sky and stone, of magnetic sighs and watery murmurs, of invisible breath that moves mountains and keeps oceans in motion. Tonight, as you lie back and let your thoughts slow down, notice the quiet around you, not the silence of nothing, but the silence that holds meaning, a silence that has been with you since before you were born, the same silence heard by ancient trees, by deep sea creatures, by monks in stone temples, and, and whales beneath polar ice. A silence filled with messages we're only beginning to decode. A silence that is not the absence of sound, but the presence of something deeper. If we start paying attention, and really paying attention, what else might we hear? Not just from the earth, but from ourselves. Because maybe the quiet signals around us are mirrors for the quiet signals inside us. Maybe listening to the earth helps us listen to our own bodies, our own rhythms, our own still, steady truths. So tonight, let the silence fill you, not with worry, not with fear, that does, but with wonder. You're resting on a living planet. Planet? A planet that speaks in gentle patterns and deep time. A planet that, even when it says nothing, is saying something profound. Maybe the Earth isn't just alive. Maybe it's aware when mirrored Hirio, not in the way we are, with words or thoughts, but in the way it moves, pulses, shifts, in the way it breathes through wind and whispers through waves, in the quiet tug of its tides and the soft rumble of distant storms. Maybe every tremor beneath our feet, every rustle of leaves, every long silence between the noise is a kind of language, not one we've mastered, not one we've even truly heard, but a message, all the same. If Earth could speak in a voice we understood, what would it say? Would it warn us, guide us, or simply remind us that we are part of something vast and beautiful and beautiful and beautiful on dry heron Fursey, and alive? And maybe it's been speaking all along, not in shouts, in but in signals, in patterns, in pauses. They love to tease it of all too. Maybe we've missed it because we forgot how to listen. We look to the stars for signs, and we scan the sky for signals from beyond. But perhaps the most important signal has always been under our feet. And the earth spins, not just in space, not but in story. A story told in slow waves, in magnetic pulses, in the way trees lean toward light, and rivers find their path through stone. It's a story we were meant to join, not control. And the final thought we leave you with tonight is this: what else have we missed? Simply because we weren't listening? There's a rhythm in stillness, there's meaning in silence, and there is wisdom in the quietest corners of the world. The, so maybe the next time you feel a breeze on your skin, or hear the wind rustle through a window, or notice a strange stillness in the air, pause, to ezo reli sot, not to fear it, vague, but to listen. Maybe the earth is trying to tell you something, and maybe it always was. And if this quiet journey into earth's mysteries and what made you wonder, made you feel, or simply made you pause, then let's stay curious together. Menspot, tap like to let us know you're still listening. Subscribe to stay connected to stories that hum beneath the surface. And leave a comment. What's one moment when you felt the earth was speaking to you? Was it the stillness before a storm? The hush of snowfall? The way the ground seemed to breathe beneath your feet? Tell us, because these stories, your stories, help the world listen too. And so as you close your eyes tonight, you are resting on a planet that spins without needing applause, that sings without sound, that feels more than we can ever fully understand. It sends signals in light and shadow, either in gravity and grace, in silence and in soft signs that only the soul seems to hear. Let those signals guide you into sleep. Let the quiet carry you. Let the earth hold you the way it always has. Sleep softly tonight, beneath the signals only earth can send. Good night.